What's up, everybody? My name is Nick, and welcome to the very first episode of my new show called Short Circuit Sports, the channel that's going to bring you lightning fast coverage of the sports world from a fan's perspective. I'll be covering anything and everything from breaking news to scores and predictions to updated power rankings with fan analysis. A little about me is that I have a great passion and respect for the sports world and anyone that plays, and I wanted to create a channel that not only covers the top stories in the world of sports, but also maybe some of the smaller stories that get swept under the rug a little bit. I would also recommend to anybody that is of the like mind that wants to create a channel about something that they're passionate about, by all means, take that leap of faith and do it. You never know who's listening. That's just my 2 cents. Um, for our first episode, we've got a lot on tap. We've got some Thursday night football recap between the Giants and the 49ers, as well as my top 5 games to watch for week 3 this weekend. Um, we've also got some news in baseball, some breaking news about DH and pitcher Shohei Ohtani, and we've also got some MLB playoff races with 1 week left in the season. So we've got a lot going on in this particular episode, and I cannot wait to get into it. So stay plugged in, stay charged up, and let's get into it. So on Thursday, the San Francisco 49ers beat the New York Giants 30-12. Quarterback Brock Purdy had a very efficient game, finishing 25 of 37 for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had a great game on the ground, rushing for 85 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel finished over 100 yards and a touchdown, and George Kittle had 7 receptions for 90 yards. And Brock Purdy accomplished all of this without his top receiver to date, wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, who did have a shoulder injury and was out for this game. As for the New York Giants, it is a completely different story. Quarterback Daniel Jones finished 22 of 32, only had 137 yards, and he did throw an interception. Personally, I do think that the New York Giants are starting to regret giving him a contract extension. The New York Giants did have their starting running back hurt this game. Saquon Barkley did have a high ankle sprain and was ruled out before this game started. They also had a few injuries along the offensive line, but in the end, I do not think it would have mattered. The 49ers completely outpaced them and are continuing to show everyone why they are the number one team in the NFL. The New York Giants moved to 1-2 on the year and will travel home to play the Seattle Seahawks, while the San Francisco 49ers moved to 3-0 on the year and will also travel home to play the Arizona Cardinals. Now moving on to my top 5 picks for the week, games to watch. We have the Buffalo Bills at the Washington Commanders. I will first start this particular game by saying that the Washington Commanders deserve a lot of props, starting 2-0 for the first time in 12 years. It's been 12 years since they've gone 2-0 to start the season. So they have a lot to be proud of currently. Quarterback Sam Howell has shown that he is a competent quarterback for them. I do not know if I would go so far as to say that he is a franchise guy for them yet, but he has shown that he is at least capable of winning them some games. And this particular game will be a huge step up from the competition he's faced so far, and it does remain to be seen if he can handle that pressure. As for the Buffalo Bills, they did start slow to start the year, but as we found out last week, when Josh Allen is on, the Buffalo Bills are going to roll, and they beat the Las Vegas Raiders handedly, putting up 38 points. Josh Allen had a very good game, and I do think that when Buffalo has their affairs in order and Josh Allen is playing within the offense instead of trying to do too much, I think that the Buffalo Bills are probably going to be contenders in the playoffs and Super Bowl hopefuls. So I do have them winning this game 28-17. I really don't think that it's close, and I think Josh Allen shows that he has it figured out. Moving on to my number 4 game, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders. This game wouldn't really be on my list if not for the fact that I am very intrigued by how mediocre these two teams are. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the definition of bad offense, decent defense. I know a lot of their fans have been clamoring for their offensive coordinator to get fired, so that should tell you all you need to know. As for the Las Vegas Raiders, like I mentioned before, they did give up 38 points last week to the Buffalo Bills, so their defense really has nowhere to go but up. On offense, star running back Josh Jacobs only ran for single digits last week, so it does remain to be seen if they have learned anything from that loss. I do think this game comes down to the wire. The Raiders are at home. I do think that the Raiders are better on offense than the Steelers are on defense currently, so I do think that the Raiders can pull this out at the last second. Moving on to my number 3 game, we have the defending NFC champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both teams starting 2-0. For the Philadelphia Eagles, they haven't been quite as dominant as people would have hoped that they would be to start the season. However, in the NFL, it really isn't about the journey. It is about the destination, and they are 2-0. They are finding ways to win, and I feel like there really isn't a point that you can describe that they haven't covered. Quarterback Jalen Hurts is a stud, and as long as he is healthy, as long as he is balling out, I don't think that there is a problem on the Philadelphia side of things. You can also say the same about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who nobody thought would be in this particular position. Quarterback Baker Mayfield is surpassing all expectations set for him this season. He's led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a 2-0 record, and they have the 13th best offense in the NFL. Their defense is number 10 in the NFL in total defense. So they have had a very good start to this season. I do think that this game is a lot closer, or can be a lot closer than people truly realize. I do have the Eagles winning this game. I do think that the score is a lot closer. No, I think that the game is closer than the score indicates. And if the Eagles are not careful, they will be in a dogfight in this game. And Baker Mayfield can show on Sunday Night Football that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are for real. Moving on to the number 2 game on my list, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Los Angeles Rams have actually surpassed my expectations so far this season. Quarterback Matt Stafford has been fairly on point, and he's been fairly healthy, which I did not think would be the case for this season. They did lose to the San Francisco 49ers last week, which I kind of expected to happen, but they did beat the Seahawks week 1. Matt Stafford is putting up great numbers even without his number 1 receiver, Cooper Kupp, and the Rams have been pretty okay this season. And I don't think a lot of people really thought that much of them this season. That is what has been going down for the Cincinnati Bengals, however. They are 0-2. Quarterback Joe Burrow has been hurt, has been hobbled, does not look comfortable at all. And the Cincinnati Bengals have very, very much underperformed this season. They are very underwhelming. I do have them winning this game. I think that they are more desperate than the Rams currently. But make no mistake, if they fall to 0-3, it is disaster time for Cincinnati. And they might have to consider sitting Joe Burrow because of his hurt leg. Because if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, do you really want to risk Joe Burrow getting hurt even more at 0-3? I don't think they do. So I do think that it's desperation time for Cincy. I do have them winning this game by 3. However, the Rams could very easily take this game as well. Moving on to my number 1 game. It is probably not a game that a lot of people expected to be here. And it is the 0-2 Los Angeles Chargers against the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings. Now, this game is on my list for one reason and one reason only. And that is because both of these teams have underperformed. And they have way too much talent on their roster to be doing so. The Chargers, on offense, they're fine. They have a few tweaks to make on offense, but for the most part, that is not the reason they have been losing. It has been their coaching and it's been their defense. If they lose this game, personally, if I was Chargers management, I would look at moving off of Brandon Staley. He has been probably the most underperforming head coach in all of football. He cannot make adjustments, and he has been the reason the Chargers have been losing. Because he is a defensive-minded coach that cannot coach defense, and they are suffering for it. On the flip side of this, for the Minnesota Vikings, they have had a lot of misfortune with turnovers, and they have also had their own share of problems on defense. On offense, they have been very, very, very good. Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson are on point again this season, as well as Rookie of the Year hopeful Jordan Addison. I do have the Chargers winning this game 31-27, but for both of these teams, all of the losses that you see on the screen have been by one possession. This game is going to be very close. I would not be surprised for this game to end in a tie because both of these teams have a habit of letting a game get away from them. So we'll see what happens with that. But those are my top 5 games to watch this week. Now moving on to baseball. For Shohei Ohtani, designated hitter and starting pitcher, he has officially been ruled out until 2024 in terms of hitting. In terms of pitching, however, he has been ruled out until 2025. Personally, I do believe that this is the last that we've seen of him in a Los Angeles Angels uniform. He is a free agent after the season, and whatever team ends up getting him will probably pay upwards of $500 million for him. A lot of people argue that he's not worth that because he's quote-unquote damaged goods. I, however, think that he is still a top talent in this game, if not the best, when healthy. So we'll see who he ends up with at the off season's end, and it is a travesty to see one of the top players in baseball not at his best. Moving on to the MLB playoff race. At the time of this recording, Texas and Houston were, I believe, swapped, and Seattle is still fighting as well for that top spot in the West. There is a real possibility that all three teams end up in the playoffs, and I don't think that there is a chance Houston does not end up one of those teams. Houston has the experience to succeed in the playoffs, and this is the time of the year where they truly, usually thrive. Moving on to the Central, the Minnesota Twins have an 8.5 game on Cleveland. I don't think that changes. Minnesota will win that division. Moving on to the East, you have the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays fighting it out for that top spot. Tampa Bay is 2 games back, and both teams have clinched playoff spots. The team that does not win the division will end up the top seed in the wild card just based off of their amazing records. Personally, I do think that the Baltimore Orioles will take the division. Moving on to the National League, we have the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers clinching their respective divisions. The Milwaukee Braves have clinched a playoff berth, and very soon I expect that to be the playoff. I do expect it to be that they have clinched the Central as well. Moving on to the American League wild card, we also have the Tampa Bay Rays as the top seed. And as the top seed, I mentioned before that it will either be Tampa Bay or the Baltimore Orioles. In this particular case, I do think that Tampa Bay stays the top seed in the wild card. I see that Toronto is the second seed. I don't think that they relinquish that spot either, but I also mentioned before that there's a possibility that all three teams from the American League West end up in the playoffs. So if Toronto is not careful, they will fall out of the playoff picture completely, allowing Texas, Seattle, and Houston to realize that scenario. Moving on to the very competitive National League, we have the Philadelphia Phillies at the top wild card slot, with Arizona behind as the second seed, with Chicago as the third. I do think that Philadelphia keeps that top seed. I also think that Arizona keeps that second seed. In terms of the third seed, I look at Miami and I see that they have been probably one of the hottest teams in baseball over the last week, and I would not be surprised in the slightest to see them catch Chicago. Cincinnati has also had a very, very, very good season so far, and the San Francisco Giants have been here before, and if none of these teams above them are careful, I could see San Francisco creating some drama. It is probably not likely. I think it's either between Chicago and Miami for that third slot. That will officially do it for the very first episode of Short Circuit Sports. If you agreed or disagreed with anything that I mentioned in this video, by all means, please let me know down in the comments, and I will debate you respectfully and civilly, and I would hope the same from you guys. And I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are interested in seeing more of these videos, please like this video and subscribe, and I will do my best to put more of these videos out in the world for you guys. And yeah, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and I will catch all of you guys in the next video. Peace.